welcome to the Laughter on Call webinar. I have to just call this a special edition because I feel so special about this guest. For those of you not familiar with Laughter on Call, we just celebrated our seventh anniversary. I never know if it's
Woo.
birthday or anniversary. And the company was launched initially to help those with Alzheimer's, to create connection through laughter. And when I say those, who am I kidding? It was my mother. I'd been a comedian for years and taught stand up at UCLA for 10, and I couldn't make my mother laugh. So I had the idea to bring in a professional to do it, and it worked. And you can read all about that at laughteroncall.com because I got to get right to our guest today. So this is Lisa Feldman. Say hi, Lisa.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. I just want to tell you a little bit about Lisa. She is an assistant United States attorney in the cyber and intellectual property crime section of the United States Attorney's Office in Los Angeles. And she's been an OUSA, that's the acronym I was just taught, for over 25 years. As a federal prosecutor, Lisa handles cases involving cyber crimes such as computer hacking, cyber-enabled fraud, and cyber exploitation, as well as cases involving intellectual property crimes such as the manufacture and sale of counterfeit goods. Sidebar, I worked in Chinatown in New York in the 80s
Oh, wow.
as undercover for the counterfeit goods. Pretty funny.
Oh, we have to talk later.
Yeah. Lisa serves as the community outreach coordinator for the cyber and IP crime section and regularly speaks to public schools about cyber safety and sophisticated cyber scams. We're going to be talking about those sophisticated phone scams in a minute, and specifically targeting older adults. Before joining her section, Lisa served as a supervisor who trained new prosecutors in her office. Prior to being an OUSA, Lisa was an attorney in a civil litigation law firm in Los Angeles. Welcome, Lisa.
Oh, welcome. Oh, there it goes.
Yes. All right. Did Lisa just freeze? Oh, dear. Okay. Hopefully, we will get Lisa back because I have so much to say about this. In fact, while Lisa is frozen, I will tell you that it is no coincidence, or it was this miraculous coincidence, actually, because I had booked Lisa. Oh, and I guess she'll be back with us in a minute. I had booked Lisa as a guest for Laughter on Call. And then, so I had her cell phone number. And then, unfortunately, I was the victim of a phone scam, which
That kicks
is
me off.
super humiliating. Hi, Lisa. Lisa's back. I'm just telling them the story of how we met now.
Oh, good. That was the weirdest thing. Welcome to the government, I guess. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Sorry, everybody.
So
Okay.
in any event, I had booked Lisa and then I got scammed. And I'm not going to get into all the details now because now we have Lisa here. But I was very, very fortunate to have her cell number when this all went down. So, okay, Lisa's back. Lisa, why don't you start by telling us like why this information and is so important to have right now, and just a little bit of what we'll be covering in this next 45 minutes to an hour.
You got it. So, as everyone has probably either knows personally or has read in the news, the exponential growth in cybercrime is just very disturbing. And so, I believe the last total that they had was $2.3 billion loss in 2024. And if you see the charts, it's just like exponential growth. We have learned, I normally am prosecuting crimes, and we cannot prosecute our way out of this mess. There's just too many scams, too many victims. So we all believe here at my office, and me personally, that the best way to combat this is through community outreach, such as like today, because the idea is that you don't want to become a victim in the first place. I mean, we can prosecute people afterwards, but if we can stop people from becoming victimized, that's the best. And I believe very passionately that this type of outreach is critical. I think if people are kind of aware of certain things, they will definitely, either stop them or they'll think first. So I want to say thank you for having this. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And very big kudos to everybody in your audience who's attending to learn this and
Yes.
spread the word. So
Yeah,
that's the first.
awesome. So you
That's why
talked,
it's important.
yeah, that's right. You talked about awareness. So that's the first thing we're going to cover is
Yes,
awareness. What's out there because it is more sophisticated. I mean, I'm not a PhD, but I did get suckered in. So important to have awareness of what the different types of
yes,
scams look like. Then we're going to talk about prevention, and then we're going to talk about what happens when it happens. What can you do? So
exactly.
that's why Lisa's here. So
Exactly. We'll go through the red flags and go sort of step by step and what to
great,
do if you
great.
become a victim.
Great.
Excellent.
So why
So,
don't you just jump in because we lost you for a minute or two there. So why don't you just jump in and tell us like five things to be aware of right now, like five
okay.
of the top ones.
All right. So first, I always want to start with this. People don't realize how sophisticated and manipulative these scams are. It is not the Nigerian prince scam anymore. So the first thing to understand is most of these scams are being committed by people in groups, highly organized groups overseas, and they spend every waking minute trying to figure out how to scam people. They're extremely sophisticated and very, very realistic looking, as you may see when you're getting these texts. It looks just like something you could get from a bank or from Amazon or something like that. They purposely do that. They send out millions of these, and hopefully people, just a few people respond. And just to let you know, just overall, before I talk about the five or so biggest scams right now, that it's very important to understand the point of this. It's not so much that people are hacking in, they are more tricking you, and they're using what we call social engineering. So it is a way to trick people into, taking advantage of their natural inclination to trust. And that's where oftentimes older adults, not all the time, but these scams hit everybody, but often older adults may be more willing to trust. So even, but in these, the way these scams work, even very savvy people, very smart, savvy people are victimized. But a lot of older adults who may have a lifetime of savings are going to lose more money. But social engineering is critical. And as I go through these scams, you're going to see how the social engineering works. But it is spoofing, where, let's say that's an example. So the spoofing is on your phone. It looks like it's coming from a number that you trust, or a bank, or wherever, Amazon, but it's not. It's very simple for these scammers to make it look like that, to make it look like a phone number is coming from a business, to make it look like a website's legitimate. So you have to be really careful with that and to understand that happens. So that's the first thing. So I want to go through some of the red flags that you're going to recognize in almost all of these scams, and then I'll go through the most prevalent ones. But this is something for you really to understand, because I won't be able to go through all the scams today. So there's two basic types. The ones that rush you, they act now, do it quick. There's some problem, do its urgency. They're manipulating your emotions to do something fast. And as I was explained to Danny once before, your frontal lobe or your brain, when you are scared, when you're nervous, when you're excited, it doesn't work as well. And so you're not going to stop and think. You're not going to think as critically as you might otherwise. So anything where it's urgency, fear, you're going to get arrested, something bad's going to happen. That's a real red flag. And
Yeah,
they're manipulating your emotions.
I'd like to just because it's so relevant, because this is what happened to me. I was driving and I was in a rush and I got a text from Wells Fargo fraud department. Did you wire $8,000? I was like, I'm driving, and I'm like, hit Y or N, and I hit the N because like no, and my phone rang immediately, and now I realized, well, right, and I didn't look at the number because I was driving. And so that's how the whole thing escalated. And basically it was your account's been compromised and they're taking all the money right now. So that's all I'll say. It was about urgency, right? It was about
No, that's exactly right. And they got you even at the very beginning. When you think about it, they're the social engineering aspect. You get a text. Any person's going to want to say, I didn't, make that charge, or I didn't spend that money. Click no, and they know that most people will think to do that. It makes sense. So once then they call you. And then once they get you on the phone, it all seems legit as they have their convoluted story one step at a time. I'm going to go into one of them later, but that's how they get you. And we like to say, my colleague and I, they get you on your worst day or your busiest day, or when you're rushing or you're distracted. You're not giving it the thought that you might otherwise. And so that's something that you really have to train yourself to be thinking these things happen. I have to be really more protected. Uh, so that's the one type of scam. The
Spoofing.
other type, which is really, you can lose life savings in the second. I mean, you could in the first, but usually it's the second kind, a confidence scam. It's the long-term scam where they're building trust over time. And I'm going to talk about a couple of those, but like romance scams, things like that, where once they've gained that trust, you think it's a person that you can trust. It's not, but you don't realize that. Then they start asking for money or start asking you to quote unquote invest, but you're really sending it to them, things like that. So, and I'm going to talk about that, but that's where you get the wrong number text. I've been getting a lot more of those, and it's because those are scams. They're trying to see who's going to respond to start this kind of confidence scam, and over social media, et cetera. So that's, those are the two types. The big red flags right now, there's a lot more, but the top ones. So first of all, payment method. If they want you to pay with gift cards, red flag, don't do it. No, the only thing for gift cards are gifts. That's what my friend and I say. Uh, Wire transfers. I'm not saying that, of course, those are legitimate, but be more cautious because it's harder to get that money back. Cash, of course, once you give it, you can't give it back. And cryptocurrency, also think of it like digital cash. So those methods are picking methods where it's going to be, you're getting, giving out the money, and more unlikely that you'll get it back, not like a credit card. Secrecy, huge red flag. And these happen, that every victim, they'll say, oh yeah, they told me not to tell anybody, but they seem to have a good reason for that they've manipulated people. If someone says, don't tell anyone, or don't tell your husband or wife, that is a big red flag. But people don't recognize that because they come up with a good reason why you shouldn't. But just remember that if the don't tell anyone is a sure sign to hang up. They want to keep you on the phone. A lot of times you're doing something and you're going in the bank. They're keeping you on the phone. And it goes back to the fact that your frontal lobe, they're keeping you busy. You're not thinking straight. If you hang up, you'll start talking to your friend or a family member, and they'll say, oh, that might be a scam. They don't want you to do that. So they come up with a reason why you got to stay on the phone. If it's online or phone and not in person, again, may not be a scam, but it could be. It's the sort of thing where it's online. You don't know these people. You don't know who it really is. Or a phone, they can pretend to be someone. Be aware of that. If someone, I've started adding this one because I've noticed this lately with victims. A lot of times in these where people are losing a huge amount of money, they've started off on a platform that might be a romance, an online dating site that has some protections, but they'll say, let's go to WhatsApp, or let's go to Telegram, or let's talk off on a different platform. That's a real tip in my mind that, they don't want the protections because maybe the website would figure it out, but, or somehow notify you. They don't want that. So be careful with that. And then Danny and I talked about, there's something called currency trash. I said that right. Currency transaction reports, where if a bank is dealing with $10,000 or more in cash, they have to fill out a form. So a lot of times they will be asking you to transfer 9,000 or 9,500. Not all the time, but that's just, if you hear 9,000 something, just that could be a tip, a red flag. Okay, so I'm going to try to get through, and I hope I don't speak too quickly, but certainly there'll be questions at the end. One of the biggest ones that your audience probably either has dealt with or may deal with is the grandparent scam or a relative scam. That is hitting so many people, and it's where you get a phone call and you think it's your your grandchild, and they're in trouble, and it's their voice now, and they're saying, grandma, I was in a foreign country, I accidentally ran into a pregnant woman, I'm in jail, I'm in big trouble, please don't tell mom and dad, can you please wire me money, here's the lawyer, I'm in jail and I want to get out, and they'll explain how to do bail money. What's happening now, they used to do this, but now it is the real voice of that child because AI is so easy to use. They can take that voice off the YouTube channel that they're using or whatever social media, and then in literally 5 seconds can turn it around and have it be, grandma, I just hit a pregnant woman and I'm in jail. So you need to be aware of that. So the biggest thing we say is have a family code word. First of all, don't panic, hang up if you can, and call the adult child or the grandchild. Or think of a family code, or do what my mother-in-law did, and I'm so proud of her. She said, what's your brother's your brother's first name, younger brother's first name? And they went click, because they didn't know that. So they
I
may
want
know
to
some. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to interrupt for a second, just
Yeah.
for people who don't know, like myself. When you say have a code word, you
Oh,
mean if the
yeah.
voice of your relative, husband, granddaughter, boy, whatever, loved one, um, is being mimicked, you can say to that voice this whatever the code word is. Is that what you
Right.
mean? Then if they
Yeah.
can't say the word, it's because they haven't prefabricated the
They
word.
don't, they wouldn't know it because this is someone overseas that they may know some things about your family because they've looked it up on social media. A lot of young people have talked, they're posting everything about their life on social media. So that may be public and people can find it, but they're not going to know the private code word. Like, I don't know, I'm just thinking of, water bottle. I don't know, just something, some goofy word or code that only your family knows, and talk to your grandparents, the grandparents in advance. So, but they may panic. They may forget the code word. They can just say, what's your dog's name? What's your brother's name? And they may not know that. So something
Right.
that only they would know.
Got it.
So just in the heat of the moment, again, emotions, they're flipping them out, and the grandparents, they don't want to think something's going to happen to their grandchild. And again, it's the secrecy. Don't tell mom and dad, I'll get in big trouble. But yeah, they don't want you to say that. And meanwhile, your grandkids in their room, you know, watching TV or something. So I hope
Right.
people will remember to call. So
Yeah.
that's a big one happening now. I know so many people that have either been hit by it or actually paid the money. So that's the first one. Second, tech support scams. So you might have seen that, and that hits everybody of all ages. But again, older people often have their money built over time, so there's more losses. They get a pop up on their computer that says, sometimes it says it's from Microsoft, sometimes it doesn't say. You have a virus. Please call this number. We'll help you. Don't ever call the number and just ignore it. But I'll tell you this, Microsoft is not paying attention to what your computer is doing once you bought your computer and it's home. So nobody's paying attention, but a lot of people don't know that. You call the number and their goal is to trick you into they trick you into granting them remote access to your computer, in which case they're going to mess with your bank account if they can. And a lot of people I've talked to, they don't realize they've done that. They'll come up with something, oh, can you click on this thing? This will help. And then I can get to fix your computer. And they don't realize they've given remote access to their computer and possibly their accounts. So the answer is just ignore that stuff. And if you think you do have some kind of virus, go to a reputable, whether it's Best Buy or somewhere, reputable place to get that taken care of. So don't call the number, because if you call the number of the unsolicited communication, you are calling potentially the scammer.
Right.
So that's there. And we'll have questions at the end if anybody, or pop in now if any questions.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a huge one. What, in fact,
And
that may be, yeah, go
I
ahead.
will say from an entertainment perspective, and we put it in the chat, if you really want a great catharsis, the movie The Beekeeper really, really goes all the
Oh,
way in vindicating and revenge. And I watched it. My husband recommended the night this all happened. He had me sit and watch it, and I was literally applauding.
you're like, all right.
Oh,
Yeah, I've seen
that's a
that
good one.
too.
That's a good one.
It is a good, I mean, in fact, I'll say see Thelma, the movie,
All
which
right.
is wonderful for relating to the grandparent scam. I mean,
Yes.
it's not exactly realistic, but great a movie. Um, okay, another category. This is huge, and there's so many permutations of this, but just overall, the imposter scam in general, which means someone's pretending to be somebody else. But the newest ones we're seeing now are like protect your money, that so
Mm,
do something's gone on with your bank account, someone, in order for you to protect your money, you need to move it, you need to transfer it or give it
that's
to
what
someone.
happened to me. That
And
was
that's
me.
what happened to Danny, and it's happening to a lot of people, and it's become prevalent because it works, because it makes sense at the time. So it often starts with, like you said, what we call smishing. It's a goofy word, but SMS texting. Now, instead of phishing, they call that smishing. But it'll be the text. There's some. Is this your charge on the bank, or is this a? Did you do something with your account? No, I didn't. They call. Or you'll get a pop up or some email. You end up talking to someone. Again, it came to you. You didn't call the bank. So now, by the end of this, I hope you all learn that you can't trust that. But they will convince you and say, "Is that? Oh, you didn't make that charge? Oh." someone might be stealing from your account. It could be someone else, it could be a teller. We need to transfer you to our fraud department. Then you talk to someone who you think's the fraud department and says, oh, yes, there's some, it could be all permutations. It could be there's a money laundering investigation. There's something we're going to put on the government agent who's investigating this. And they transfer you to different people who all sound so legitimate and real. That's the point of this. Like, they know these scripts, they have scripts that they work on. And sometimes they talk to psychologists, I've been told, to learn what to say to trick people. So it all sounds legit each step of the way. And meanwhile, you're now set thinking, uh-oh, I've got a problem, I got to help. And like with Danny's case, they might try to say, well, can you help us? We, there's the teller might be bad, or there may be some other problem, we need your help. So say
Yes.
sometimes take advantage of people with that, right?
Yeah, so I'll just clarify. Yes, in fact, I mean, this is completely humiliating, but yes, as it progressed, there was the tellers were giving away, were leaking accounts, and at the end, I was helping the FBI. Thank you.
But
Yes.
but but
Yeah.
and one thing I will say this at the end, it is not your fault, because these people spend every second of the day trying to figure out how to steal money, and they do the things that seem to work, and it all made sense at the time. So now you'll be more prepared, but there's no way that most people would have known this. I know this now from what I've learned, and that's why I feel so passionate about spreading the word, because no, how else would you know? There's no way you would know. And so there's going to be a convoluted story when you look back. But at the time, it's one thing after another leading to, okay, I got to transfer money. So I strongly encourage you to read the article that I think Danny put in the chat by a very savvy financial journalist. The title of the article is something to the effect of, I took $5 or $50,000 cash out of the bank, put it in a box, and gave it to a stranger. And that's what she essentially did. As savvy as she is, a young woman, she was Halloween and she was getting ready for trick or treating. So again, she's rushed. And they told her, got some call, thought that there was some charge that wasn't proper, and they convinced her that someone was stealing from her account. She needed to protect her money. So the big thing on this sort of scam is, no, you shouldn't be transferring your money. No, you don't need to protect your money. If there's the biggest thing, again, I'll repeat this throughout, contact your bank, your real bank, that through online banking, through pop in, fit personally, whatever it is. Don't rely on this call. But they scare people. When they scare them, again, you're not thinking straight. So you're just, I got to take care of this. Oh my God, something bad's going to happen. And that's what they purposely are trying to do. So there's another type of scam too I've been becoming aware of that's happening, these overpayment, refund overpayment scams. So if somebody
Mhm.
calls you or emails you and says you're entitled to a refund and you're very excited, great. And then they send you, wait, let's say 500, and they send you, $5,000 or 50,000. You think they've sent you that, and they want to log onto your computer and double check and see it's there. If it's an overpayment, and which is what they'll claim, they will then make you feel guilty. Oh my God, I accidentally sent you such and such. It's, I shouldn't have done that. It's way too much money. I'm going to get fired. Please send it back. Here, it's in your bank account. And they'll show you what you think is your bank account. It might be yours because they've gotten in remotely and moved money around to make it look like it's there, or it's fake. But either way, they never sent you that refund, and you end up paying them real money back. So if anybody talks about overpayment, that's a scam.
We have a
Yes.
question, Lisa, from Jana. She's asking, is there a way to
Oh,
check your computer if it's been accessed remotely? What about a virus or spyware?
that is such a good question. I don't know that I'm going to remember that for next time, and I will have an answer. The technology changes so much. Normally, you would have that big orange square around your monitor, like when the IT person, the legitimate remote access. But in the malware kind of things, you can't tell at all. Like, while if they said to you right now, I'm accessing your computer, you wouldn't recognize it, I don't think, from most of those. So the
Well,
question is, you mean like after the fact to find out if someone accessed?
or
Probably someone could.
in the
After,
moment. So,
in the moment, you may not know.
Well, I must be like a mark, I swear, because I also 2 months ago got the your computer is being taken over and all that. And once again, my poor husband, like I called him and he's like, shut your computer. Don't call
Right.
anyone. Shut your computer. We're going to Mac right now. And
That's good
I
advice.
did. I came home and we went to the Mac store and I think it was gone by the time we got there. But so that is the bottom line is you can walk your computer into Mac, an Apple Genius Bar or wherever. I'm sure
Right.
IBM is the same thing, and just say, check this out for me because I'm not.
I
I'm not
highly recommend that. I think that's exactly right. Or shut it down. Like that was great
yeah,
advice. You
shut
know,
it
if something's
down.
happening, you can't get it off your computer, just shut it down. Because what happens is a lot of people we talk to, they've been talked into through social engineering clicking on something that they thought was something else and they didn't realize that it was to give the scammer access, or it was something, oh, here's a link to get your refund or whatever, and it's not what they think. So if anybody wants you to click on a link, that's like the beekeeper situation. You just, we can't say it's always going to be scam, but I wouldn't do it. I would wait and go talk to the bank or whoever it is. If they say you're entitled to something, go to that legitimate company and find out. Just don't rely on someone unsolicited that tries to, talk you into something.
It is so
um
manipulative because when they send that one that's like I think it has a sound and like
oh,
it
that
like
exactly, they're scaring you.
yes, yes.
That's right. It's anything that seems to but it's hard because you're so nervous you can't even critically analyze the fact that you're getting manipulated, so I'm hoping that by talking this through now, people will be more, they'll just, it'll hit them like, wait a minute, they're trying to scare me. That's a sign of something, but you're right. They just, all the motions, or if it's too good to be true, you're going to win something that, that's another flip side of it.
Yeah.
um
Lisa, you spoke to me about I believe a John Oliver episode.
oh yes, so I was just a perfect segue. That was the last one I'm going to talk about. Pig butchering. I know it's a terrible name.
Terrible
We
name.
all agree it is the name that the scammers give the victims. So um, I'll say at the end, I want you to all watch this John Oliver episode, and you'll see why. It is the newest scam according to the FBI data. If you want to look up their FBI IC3, it's Internet Crime Complaint Center annual reports. They talk about pig butchering. Last year, it was the largest losses of any investment scam. And essentially, what it is someone will approach the victim through, often it's wrong number texts, and they're hoping someone will engage in what turns out to be like a confidence scam. They want to start a relationship, friendship, or otherwise, or on LinkedIn they contact you, or on some other social media they basically strike up a friendship or a relationship, and weeks or months can go by. That's the thing that people don't realize, or shorter, but oftentimes many weeks or months. And they somehow, the person that's contacted you that you've never met and always has an excuse as to why you can't meet them, they'll seem wealthy. And then somehow the conversation will come up, how'd you make your money or something like that. And the person ultimately, cryptocurrency. Well, how does that? Well, I use this terrific app or a terrific website. And, not a lot of people know about this, but I can send it to you. So by this time, the trust is built up. So the victim says, yeah, send it to me. I've never done cryptocurrency. How do I do that? I will teach you. No problem. And so they take this app that looks very real, or a website, and they help the person, often an older adult, help them figure out how to move their money, wire money, and then convert it into a crypto account. So they think. Long story short, they start putting money in there, maybe a little. And they look at this app that looks like, I mean, it's like the stock market, like you're looking at the value of your quote unquote investment, and it's going up. So you are induced to give more money. And this is the pig butchering thing, which means to, right? You probably may have heard that phrase, to fatten up the pig to slaughter it, sadly. So you're induced, and it's insidious because you're thinking, it's not a romance scam where I'm giving it directly to the person. I'm investing. That's what you think. So this can go on for weeks or months as you watch what you think is the value of these funds going up and up and up. Eventually, And then they'll talk you in, oh, there's another thing. You got to put in a lot of money. Something good's going to happen tomorrow. Something like that. Ultimately, you want to take your money out. Oh, wait, you can't do that. There's taxes. Well, can't I use the profits I've made? No, no, you need new money for that. So then they have to go find new money, which they may not even have it. So now they're put it on their credit card, or they borrowed from somebody, or they mortgaged their house to pay these different things.
Mm.
Then there's liens, and they'll come up with one excuse after another for you to pay more and more and not be able to take out what you think is your money. At the end, when you're finally like, something's going on here, I think this is a scam, the person's gone. And what you find out is that that entire time you've been sending your money straight to the scammer. And it's devastating. And people have lost entire life savings. I mean, there's other scams that do that, but this one is just particularly bad. And because it is crypto, it's very difficult to get it back. And it's happened over such a long period of time. So, um,
Yeah,
John Oliver. Oh, go ahead.
but in terms of that one, I think it was the New York Times article about the couple and
Oh,
the
yes.
husband
Yes.
had done exactly what you're talking about and refused to listen to reason. And then after the fact, she went back and checked his medical records, and he had beginnings of frontal temporal dementia,
Right.
and that had played into, his
Right.
reasoning skills.
Right.
And now she's suing anyone she can. God bless them. Uh,
That's
and I
that was so sad that, yeah.
that's very, very sad. So I wanted to, I do want to hear about the John Oliver, but this is an interesting question that I think you do have the answer to. What are like, is there a roster or a resource for all the current scams? Like basically a transcript of this conversation which we
Well,
will have, by the way, everyone. We're going to post this on YouTube and you'll be able to send it to people. But the question is, does the federal government or California have some kind of like bullet pointed, these are the ones to look out for?
well, I would highly recommend first, as a first step, to look at the FBI, so Federal Bureau of Investigation,
I help them. Yeah, that
IC3,
was me.
right? The IC3 reports, their annual reports, and they do talk about, they look at the data and the ones that are the biggest number in terms of number of victims and amount of losses. And it's state by state. So that's a good starting point, because that's actual data. But keeping in mind that is very, low numbers, in the sense it's only based on reports that people make to the FBI. And so, so much of this goes unreported. The Federal Trade Commission is amazing. They have such a great website, and they talk in very easy to understand, like sort of plain English, about these scams. And they have a lot of materials that you can order for free that talk about this. But otherwise, it's sort of lots of different places, but I'd start there. I sent a resource. I think you put this in the chat. I highly recommend people take a copy of that and start reading this. There's different resources there. AARP has tremendous resources and information. And we've spoken, a colleague and I have spoken on some of their webinars. And so they also will have very good information on the top scams. So those, and then join the newsletters on there, because then you're going to find out, every week I get all of them, AARP and the FTC, and you'll find out what some of the big scams are.
Great. So,
So
okay,
that'll
I
be helpful.
interrupted you
No,
about.
no, that's okay. I know I want to be mindful of time, but pig butchering, to learn more about that, John Oliver on Last Week Tonight heard about this, and he was, it's such a disturbing kind of crime that he did a deep dive last year in an episode, and it was really well done. And
Right.
so I encourage, it became viral. He told people, please make this go viral, because we essentially can't prosecute our way out of this one, because people are overseas. And so I highly recommend you watch that to get a sense of it. So
Yes,
that's a big one.
we
Watch
put
out for.
that in the chat. So that's
Good.
available to you. Okay, so we're at this juncture now where I would love to hear some kind of like little, I know we already talked about in terms of prevention, right? So we already talked about a code word
Right.
on this call, but are there any other suggestions for prevention?
Yes. So first, I know I may have said this earlier, but it bears repeating. Avoid picking up the phone or responding to unsolicited emails when you don't recognize the sender, or if it's not in your, so for phone, if it's not in your phone list. So I personally, again, not on behalf of the DOJ, it's not legal advice, but I personally, I can't tell if it's real or not when I get something from the bank. So I don't respond. I go into my bank account myself. Or if there's a question, I'll call the number on the back of the credit card or the back of my statement. So same thing with emails and texts. If it's unsolicited and you're not sure if it's real, because nowadays they're copying these companies, go into your account that you know is legitimate, and just don't respond to the other. That's the best, safest, bright line advice I could say, because you just otherwise you can't really tell. I can't tell.
Yeah.
Um,
There was
Assume it could be a scam. So that's the first thing.
Yeah, there was something else that we talked about that I think for this particular audience is so
Oh
important,
yeah, what?
which is befriending your loved one's bank.
Yes,
Like making a point to go in and talk to the banker, put a face to a name, and then, if possible, being signed on to the account without necessarily having power of attorney or
right.
a shared account, but at least have your name as emergency contact. Or I don't know, Lisa, you can speak to this better.
My understanding, no, I'm so glad, because that was on my list to mention that, especially now, and it goes to that Wall Street Journal article about the gentleman you were just talking about, that you every bank might be different, but you can ask, go in, of course, with the account holder and say, can there be some sort of conditions? I don't want to say limits, because legally it's their account, but condition if the person starts, all of a sudden wire transferring out of the blue $50,000, that a phone call should be made to the whoever you designate, your adult child or spouse or whoever, so that you can at least be aware of it and try to, because a lot of times you have no idea your family member is wiring huge amounts of money. Some banks are really great at trying to warn the customer. They recognize it's a scam, or at least they'll question them, but every bank is different. And so I think if you have the proactive conversation with your bank, what can you do? And if you maybe interview different banks, maybe only have your money at a bank that you feel more comfortable about, and see what I'm not sure what they all do, but they're learning to recognize this signs of a scam, and they do. But the problem is, a lot of times when they're, remember, the scammers are keeping you on the phone in the bank, and they're going to say something like, listen, the teller's going to try to talk you out of it, so don't tell the teller that you're sending this to me. Tell them you're buying a house in South Carolina. So, and they're okay, buying a house in South Carolina, so I got to wire. So it's hard, but you hope that at least maybe if relative gets notified. So try to think of that. That's important. And then just generally, there's a bunch of different things, but I'm trying to think. So try to, let's say you're on the phone, come up with a reason to get off the phone. A lot of older people, they don't want to have a confrontation. So you just, someone's at the door, I need to hang up, or I'm cooking dinner, I need to hang up. So that's one of them. Um, the code word, we talked about that. And essentially be aware of these red flags and be willing to hang up or stop and think. I mean, that's really the biggest thing, because there's all these little things, but if you could just sort of pause, you know what, I don't want to be rushed into this, I'm gonna call someone, I'll call you back or something. And don't let them, don't call back the number they give you, because that's the scammer's number if it is a scam. And a
Mhm.
huge thing to remember, and this is what got the woman at the journalist, they read back her social security number. Well, sadly, there have been so many breaches of everything, all the companies, the credit agencies, et cetera, et cetera. All of that information, your profile information, is all on the dark web, what we call the dark web. So scammers buy that stuff. It's very simple to buy it and read it back to you. So just because they read it back to you does not mean they are who they say they are. So again, we say, please go to the source. And if they say it's the IRS or it's the bank or whatever, those are the biggest ones, I think, in terms of red flags. There's
Yeah.
others, but are, in terms of what to do to avoid it.
Great. And then, of course, and then we're going to go to questions. So please put your questions or comments if you just, want to share your story. I get it. In any event, though, so, okay. So, and I'm a perfect example of this. So I messed up. Okay, now what do I do? Like, I know what I did thanks to your coaching, but I'd love you to share with people best practices
Right.
when you've been a victim?
Okay. So the first thing, and it depends, if you've wired money, it's really wonderful that they do this. You want to talk to your bank as soon as possible because there is something that the FBI works with the banks and they can possibly, the bank can, if they're notified that this could be fraudulent, they can freeze those funds and then investigate. And if they determine it was based on fraud, can get the money back to you. And that there's a pretty decent success rate if you can notify your bank within like 48, let's say 24 to 48 hours, even 72 hours. At least try, because the whole issue is if it's not withdrawn on the other end yet, it's in another bank account that can be frozen. So you notify the bank immediately if it's a wire or anything having to do with bank funds. We also say, obviously change your passwords, change your accounts, notify your credit card, depending upon what kind of scam it is. Maybe create a new bank account. You don't want them having access to what they may have access to right now. Also, the FTC has a terrific Federal Trade Commission website on kind of what to do with identity theft that can apply. Freeze your credit would be a really good, like if someone got your social security number, if you freeze your credit, then you'd have to, they can't, my understanding, not be able to get credit in your name once it's frozen. We do want people to report to IC3.gov, as we always say that it's the FBI sort of national database. It stands for, it's Internet Crimes Complaint Center, but it's IC3.gov. And several reasons, but one, they're trying to keep track of all of these different kinds of scams, and that's how they do these reports. And then if there's like a lot of people getting victimized by the same target or the same number, they could possibly open up an investigation um, to look that up and investigate, maybe prosecute somebody. But it also, you'll have a record that you've reported it. So if down the line, let's say something happens and you're like, that wasn't me, you have a report, you've reported it. You can go to your local police. Danny, had where you can have mixed reactions. Some local police are going to be great. Others might say, well, you sent the money, so that's your problem, kind of attitude. So the FBI understands these sorts of scams, but try local. No harm in that if you can do that. You also should report to the Federal Trade Commission, ftc.gov, and they have a reporting similar. And again, you'll get so much information from that site. And a very, very important thing is, once you are victimized, unfortunately, you are a target because they're going to know, well, you paid once, so we're going to come after this person. That happens in a lot of these scams. In the pig butchering, they'll say, we're a recovery specialist. And you don't realize it's the same group or an associated group. We heard you lost this money, we'll help you get it back, but you have to pay for that. So be very wary of that, and be very wary if you have been victimized that they're going to come after you again, and you won't, and it could be a different scam. It could be something, but they're going to figure out, worked once, it's going to work again. And so you have to really, the whole sort of point of this, I hope, and what I'm trying to convey is that people need to know this goes on, and to be kind of, there's so many people that are empathetic, and I'm an empathetic person, and my dad is from Brooklyn, though, an accountant, so I learned a lot from him on, he was very careful. So I'm an empathetic person, but I have that from him, where you just have to recognize this goes on. And I've talked to victims, I never thought this could happen, they sounded so real, how could someone do this? But they do, and they don't care. And so you have to protect yourself and know this goes on, to protect yourself going forward.
Yeah, I think that's why
And
why awareness was so important to me here, and I kept challenging the voice on the other end and saying, "Are you sure?" And he's very clearly was like, "Ma'am, I have been with Wells Fargo for 11 years in the fraud department. I'm exactly who you want to be talking to." And it was, what can I
it
say?
sounded real, right? He's reading a script. I mean, most of the time they have their scripts. So but you didn't recognize that at the time. And why would
No,
you? Why
no.
would you?
Right.
But
Had I been here, I would have known ahead of time, because everything that you talked about, secrecy, right? Don't tell, they didn't want me to tell, but don't tell the teller because the tellers are in on it, And then the $9,000, that's a new piece that came to me after the fact that at $10,000, they have to report it, or there's something that
Right.
happens with $10,000. So they're asking you under, to do it under 10.
Right.
So that's another one. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know a lot of
So, and
questions.
I also did file with the FTC, got the
Good.
police report. The fact is, once you move it to a cash card or any kind of cash, the bank is out. Someone wanted to know, and we have a couple questions actually, but someone asked about, since that they're getting like 8 to 10 calls a day, which I am
Oh,
now too. I am also, I actually got another call from Wells Fargo 2 days ago. Wells
right. Oh,
Fargo.
yeah. Yeah, right there. Good.
Um,
Exactly. Claiming to
and
be. Right.
so, the question is like, where does it end? Like, is there any hope in sight from the U.S. attorney perspective? Like,
Well, I will say we have had successful prosecutions, which is great, investigations and prosecutions of some of these scammers. So, and even the ones that are international, it's been done, and so there's some good news on that front. But there's just so many of them. What can you do? One thing that the FBI had told me is the more you pick up your phone, even if you're not a victim, but they like think of it this way: when they've stolen all this profile information, they'll have phone numbers, lists of phone numbers. They don't know if people actually have that phone number or not. So once you pick up, they realize that's a live person on the other end of the line, a potential target. So you could potentially get more calls. So another reason to not pick up, and I think I may have forgotten to say this before, what I do is wait for the person to leave voicemails. A lot of older people are worried, it could be my doctor. Well, they should leave a message and then take that number and add it to your cell contacts. So next time you know it. But as far as what you can do, I block. It doesn't really help that much because I still get a lot, but I block the numbers that I can tell are a scam. They didn't leave a message. I don't recognize it. And I'll block them or, delete them. I'm going to make them work for it. They're going to have to come up with another number to come at me. But I'm not sure. There's the do not call list, but I'm not sure if that really works. I'm hoping maybe there'll be a legislative fix on that. But I feel your pain because I get a ton of them myself.
yeah, so definitely. Another question is this, with the growth of AI, it does feel like, I mean, you talked about the voice replication. Is there anything else that you feel AI is a valuable tool for scammers?
Well, it's the voice, and then I've also heard you might have seen this. I think they featured this on the Today Show: celebrity imposter scams,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
people feel that they are talking to the celebrity and they are having, like we are, we're doing a webinar, and they think they're talking to, I think
Mm.
Cano Reeves, there was some of that, or was Kevin Costner, different people where at one point, I think the Today Show featured this, it glitched. And then the person saw, no, it's just, Joe Blow in his bedroom. And so that's how they knew it was a scam. But it does seem very real. And now, I know I don't want to do all doom and gloom. I'm hoping that, I don't want people to be nervous that their Zooms are who they think they are. But if someone is, again, they've come to you, you don't know who they really are, and then someone may start asking you for something, be very, very, very suspicious. And the whole celebrity imposter thing is huge, and they're using AI
Mm.
to, and I've heard some, if you look this up on Google, some like CEOs are getting their, people think they're in a, Zoom business meeting, and then the CEO says, I need a bunch of gift cards. So go out and get some gift cards and give me the numbers. And if not really the CEO. So you just have to be sort of attuned to being careful about some of this and see what they're asking. And if it seems out of character, call the CEO. Even if you get an email, make people don't think, just call the person is the real person and say, did you send that? Or did you call me
Yeah.
and ask for gift cards? Stuff like that.